Hello everyone and happy Monday. Welcome to another daily show. This week is going to be quite busy with everything from big government, alternative government, and the opposition, which is no government. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, including John Boko and the battle between Rishi Sunak and the Prime Minister. Before we start, just a quick update, and as some of you probably noticed, the first video player on this page, the first link is actually a YouTube link. So the good news is we received a lot of feedback from you guys. Some of you are using devices or the Wi-Fi connections are not good enough for the player on the website that we have, so we couldn't actually watch the videos properly. And some of you wanted to have these videos on your TVs again, like YouTube. So we are not able, unfortunately, to post the full shows on YouTube because they have already told us a while ago that they would either censor or remove the videos or shadow ban it. But we are able to use YouTube as a host, just their video player, as a private unlisted link. So this video that you're seeing on the YouTube player is not actually posted on YouTube. It's just the host that we are using. It's a private link. Only you guys who are paid up subscribers can see it. But it now helps you watch this on your smart TVs, and also it's a better player, so you can actually watch all these videos without technical difficulties. For the rest of you who have not had any issues, you can obviously use the second link as usual, the original video player for the website. And most of you are using that anyway. But if you want to use the YouTube one to watch it on TV, feel free to use this link. Now, let's go to the government that we have. We have a lot of issues today because over the last couple of days, throughout the weekend, we had a number of rumors, we had a number of leaks coming out, especially around Matt Hancock and the lockdown extension. Now, today's show is one of those videos that if you post a full version on YouTube, you will definitely get removed because the guidelines have again changed in terms of public health or the coronavirus, the C word. Matt Hancock, apparently, according to the Times and the Telegraph, has kept Boris Johnson in the dark over the actual figures and the data. As you know, this government are very proud to say that they are following the data, not dates. Yet, the Health Secretary received some positive data for the 3 day prior to the meeting that ruled the unlocking of the 21st of June that was delayed. Yet, he did not inform the Prime Minister of that positive data. This is a big deal because we've already seen a lot of issues around the government. Who is actually running this government? Is this the Prime Minister? Is it the Department of Health right now? Is it SAGE doing it? Or is it the mainstream media? Or maybe it's the World Health Organization. Not really them, but no one really knows who's in charge because you would think that the Prime Minister should be aware of everything to be able to make decisions. But apparently, including of all the ministers, all the actual advisors, you have people like Matt Hancock who at times keep things private, which is not really democratic because whilst we haven't actually elected Boris Johnson directly as Prime Minister, he is still an elected official and he's there to represent the country, so he should be made aware. Now, there are, of course, a lot of issues around what Matt Hancock is doing, and on Saturday night, Steve Baker, one of the Tory backbenchers, an anti-lockdown rebel, said that either Matt Hancock thought that this data was insignificant, or he thought that it should be withheld from the Prime Minister and other key ministers. Either way, the mind boggled at what conversation must now be necessary with the Prime Minister, and I feel confident that it will be a matter of interest to my colleagues on the relevant select committees. If Matt Hancock was deliberately withholding relevant information, what was he trying to gain? Was the Prime Minister bounced? Now, of course, the Department of Health have said that, well, Matt Hancock did not bounce the Prime Minister, but senior ministers are all furious of the way this cabinet is actually running the show because they have the group of four, Matt Hancock, Rishi Sunak, Michael Gove, and the Prime Minister at the top, the inner circle, making these decisions. And inside the inner circle, you have a tiny circle, which is not even a circle, it's just a dot, Matt Hancock, and he's causing a lot of troubles. Now, we know that at this point, the data that Matt Hancock was hiding and SAGE weren't really honest about the modeling has already been proven that the extension to the 21st of June, whether you extend it or not, at this point, makes no difference. Of course, the vaccinations would have continued anyway, and of course, the increase in cases would have happened anyway. The key point is the number of the mortality rate and the hospitalization. And we are seeing, even today as we speak, we only had 5 people losing their lives with COVID, not of COVID. There's a difference. At the time of their death, they were tested positive. So that's a whole different conversation that's been happening for a year and a half, and people are still misunderstanding the concept of dying with COVID and of COVID. But that's a whole different point. At this point, we have Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, losing complete control, the cabinet and the whole government, because Matt Hancock is causing trouble. He's clashing with the Health Secretary. On the other hand, he's also clashing with the Chancellor. Now, in this battle, Rishi Sunak versus Boris Johnson, I'm taking Rishi Sunak's side because Boris Johnson is losing his mind. Now, the City AM reported that the tensions that are rising between Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak behind closed doors over budget spending. Now, Boris Johnson and people around him are very much in favor of raising taxes, raising spending, and raising borrowing. And Rishi Sunak, despite the fact that he played along for a long time since the pandemic started, with spending a lot of money, with on furlough, Eat Out to Help Out, and all the other schemes and grants, which had to happen because the government forced the businesses to shut down. So of course, the government had to provide the financial support. But apparently, right now, Rishi Sunak is now fed up, saying that we can't just keep spending and raising taxes and borrowing. Also, this is not really the Tory way. But of course, apparently, Boris Johnson and people around him are very much keen on spending and spending and spending. Now, there's one thing about using the taxpayers' money to support the taxpayers on welfare, the safety net, and things like that. And there's something about using the taxpayers' money to spend on big projects, and especially vanity projects, because some of the battle between Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson is based on the Green Infrastructure Plan. This Green Deal plan, the new Green Deal that Boris Johnson has in mind, is slightly expensive, guys. So they call it the Marshall Plan, the Green Marshall Plan, and has seen the government commit to spending billions of pounds on international infrastructure to combat China's Belt and Road Initiative. So this is to obviously rival the Chinese plan. And Whitehall, people in Whitehall have said that no one in the Treasury had a clue about the new Marshall Plan until it appeared in the media. So this is one problem. There's a massive fight over billions of pounds of taxpayers' money being spent on an international green infrastructure plan. Nothing that will immediately help the taxpayers, of course. And the Chancellor and the Treasury had no idea. And this is really interesting because the Treasury are always very difficult to deal with because they always block ideas and policies because they don't want to spend money. And this time, the Downing Street number 10 completely kept them in the dark. And of course, Rishi Sunak is kicking off. That's one battle. The second area that they're fighting about is this royal yacht. So there's going to be a massive boat costing £200 million. Now, there's a massive row between government departments in terms of who is going to be paying for this massive, massive boat. Now, number 10 announced the plans for this, and the royal family have said behind closed doors that they don't really want the new ship. And one official said that it was given to Michael Gove to sort out, but it became clear that under procurement rules, it could only be built here if it was a Navy thing with a bunch of fake weapons on board. So Gove passed it on to the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, and the Treasury stayed out of it. This makes no sense. This exactly goes back to what we put under the screen here. Big government. Big government, as a concept, doesn't work. It becomes complicated, it becomes mysterious, and it becomes corrupt. And no one knows who's in charge. No one knows who to hold to account. And this is the biggest problem we have. Michael Gove sending it to the MOD. The Treasury doesn't really know what's happening. And then they were like, well, we can only build it here if you put some guns on it. Well, what's happening here? Why are we making everything complicated? And why are we spending £200 million on a big ship? At the time when there are ordinary people suffering, I'm absolutely fine with this idea if you build it in about 5 to 10 years, when you have the money to spend, but not right now. Or at least give it to someone else to build it, a private sector, as it's some sort of donation. I'm sure someone can do it. Maybe Bill Gates would do it. Jeff Bezos, someone will pay for it. It's, for them, it's £200, £200 million. It's nothing. But this is the biggest battle that we currently have, because the Times also reported yesterday that there's now a big battleground, and that's called Downing Street. Rishi Sunak versus the Prime Minister, who only wants to spend, spend, and spend. This is an article written by Tim Shipman, who's talking about the battle of ideologies between the Chancellor and the Prime Minister. Now, people like me thought that this Prime Minister, because he claimed to be libertarian, would be more responsible financially. But, of course, we were absolutely wrong. Now, this takes us back to the concept of big government and alternative government. Now, alternative government is not the Labour Party. Alternative government are the ones who are either running the show behind closed doors, or at least at times certain aspects of our government or policy areas. So, independent sage, group of experts or so-called experts. Now, the head of the independent sage is launching an international climate change group, which is a similar style as SAGE, but it's going to be focusing on climate change. Now, this is Sir David King, who hopes to emulate success of British COVID advisory body by issuing monthly reports on environmental crisis. The success of the body. Where is the success? What success is he talking about? You caused trouble. Your modeling doesn't work. You lied. You're also trying to scare people further to tell them that we need to basically have a permanent lockdown until 2050. It makes absolutely no sense that these guys now want to focus on climate change. What are your credentials to talk about climate change? So are you an expert when it comes to medical matters, or are you a scientific expert on climate change? Pick a side. Now, these guys, as we say, alternative government, because they're also creating big government inside their own weird ideological group, because now several world's leading scientists have planned to launch this independent expert group, and the new body has been inspired by independent sage. Imagine if SAGE, independent sage, inspired someone to do something similar. It makes no sense. Now, the Climate Crisis Advisory Group, which will be the CCAG, will include 14 experts from 10 countries and every continent that will aim to have a more of an international reach and to provide the global public and regular analysis about efforts to tackle the global heating. And oh my God, I'm just falling asleep just reading that article. So, of course, these people are obsessed with certain agendas. Now, a lot of people who are anti these groups, like myself, would freak out and say, classic globalists trying to take over the world and trying to, this is the plan that they've always had. The funny thing is, of course, intention-wise, a lot of these people, they do want that. They want that globalist kind of Star Trek world of telling everyone what to do. But it's not they always wanted it, they always planned it, and it's going as planned. These guys are very incompetent. All of these so-called globalists who want to take over the world and tell us what to do, they can't even run their own tiny projects because they have the intention, they have attempts to do things like this, but they are always unsuccessful. For example, the World Economic Forum with the Great Reset agenda that came out last year in terms of how to deal with the post-COVID life and how we should basically centralize everything, things like that. It's not some sort of genius plan behind closed doors, but done by some lizards. It's just some idiotic plan with some greedy people who think that they can run the world, but they can't. Then they will never be able to do it. And at times, they have some control over our lives, and for some time, and eventually they will lose it, and some other group will come back and take over. So in terms of what's going to happen to the world, let's stay optimistic in terms of some areas. For example, the climate change stuff. If these people, if the globalists were so competent, they would get behind one group, one tiny group, to run the world in terms of the agenda. But that's not happening. You got the World Economic Forums doing it. You got the International Climate Change Group doing it. You got the United Nations having another group doing it. Then you have these guys creating a new group internationally. Then you got Greta Thunberg with her friends. You got the other groups. You got about 52 separate international groups trying to tackle climate change, and they all have separate policies and agendas. They can't even get together to be united on this issue because everybody has different policies. And while we ordinary people are being damaged by the policies, they're also damaging their own agenda, so they can't really progress. That's the beauty of this. So whilst what they're doing is bad, it's actually quite funny to watch them fail. So that's exactly what's been happening with the Extinction Rebellion movement as well. Now, on the other hand, in terms of globalism and people who is actually in charge of governments, Boris Johnson's phone has been seized over the MI5 fear of security risks. Now, this is actually quite interesting. Who goes back to what I was saying earlier? That's the theme of today's video. Who is running the government? Who is actually in charge? How much power does the prime minister actually have? And how much power does the head of state, the crown, has? Because if it's not those two, Her Majesty or the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, then there are some areas, especially national security, that the other groups, your MI5s and MI6s and GCHQ, that at times they definitely hide information from those two. Now, for a lot of times they have to provide them the updates because it's sensitive information that the leaders have to know. But there are a lot of things on a daily basis that these guys are actually more powerful than the Prime Minister or the Queen. And this is quite dangerous because we do technically live in a democracy, but not really. Both the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the United States of America, whilst we pretend to have a democratic and liberal secular societies, the reason these countries are successful, generally speaking, or part of the superpowers, is because there have to be some stuff happening behind the scenes without the full democratic process to go through. And this is a sad part about the world that we're living right now. I'm not really happy about this story about Boris Johnson's phone. And yes, of course, you can't really trust Boris with his phone. we know that. But it's not really the job of MI5 to take away his phone in that sense. They tried to do the same thing with Donald Trump as president. He stood up for himself, and well done, Trump, for doing that. But again, this is a big issue that we have, and somebody has to answer this. Now, this is the alternative government. Now, we got the alternative government, the Bercow show. John Bercow, who wants some attention. For those of you, especially watching from abroad, who might have forgotten who John Bercow is, he is the former Speaker of the House of Commons. Yeah, when you see his face, you remember him. It's John Bercow, who's now defected to the Labour Party. Oof. Okay. On the one hand, a lot of people watching this, especially since Brexit, would say, well, that's not really that surprising. Of course he's going to join the Labour Party. He's an annoying lefty, he's anti-Brexit, anti-Boris. And on the other hand, those who know of history of John Bercow know that it's a bit of a weird move. The guy, until he became Speaker and then post David Cameron and Brexit, not only he was a conservative, he was a very, very hard right conservative. He was a proper traditionalist and protectionist, up to a point where his views were very, very outdated and very harsh. Somehow he is now this softy, compassionate, lollipop-carrying former speaker. So he's come out to join the Labour Party because the Labour Party said, we're going to embrace you and welcome you, John, because we have to win back those votes, the ordinary working class votes from the Red Wall. And the only way we can do it is by using Sir Keir Starmer's face and John Bercow's face as our poster boys. And we are now going to win back the working class votes from the North and the Midlands and Wales. Sure, if that's going to work for you, the thing is, this came out yesterday and a couple of days ago. For about half an hour, I just laughed. Everybody was reacting to it, either happy or sad or angry, or just, it made no sense why the Labour Party decided to accept him. It makes no sense why John Bercow thinks that he could help the Labour Party. Some people started this rumour that, he's doing it because he wants to get a peerage, become a lord, using the Labour Party. You do realize that's not going to happen because the Prime Minister could still block it. It's more likely that he's joined the Labour Party and the Labour Party could give him a safe seat and he could join the House of Commons as an MP. That's a lot easier route for John Bercow to get back into party politics than trying to become a lord. That makes no sense for him anymore at this point. But if you think that you can win back the votes from the Red Wall using Bercow, you are completely mistaken. Now, he was interviewed on Sunday. He was doing the rounds, and he was asked on Sky News about the bullying allegations and all the harassment stuff. Now, he always denied all these allegations. Now, in order, he's changed his tact so that he comes across more human. He's now saying that, oh, well, of course we all make mistakes. Just watch this.
Speak honestly to me.
I always do.
Can you say that you never did anything that you felt now you regret, or you thought might have been objectionable, or that might have been something that when you look back now you think, I wish I hadn't done that?
Oh, good heavens.
In relation to this issue of bullying and so on.
Gosh, I would have to cast my mind back. We all make mistakes. Have I been perfect in every instance? Can I say that with the benefit of hindsight, I'd never have done something differently? Of course I couldn't. But I come back to the...
Sure. Okay, now the Ramona rejoiny liberals watching this, people who like John Bercow and say, oh, look, see, he admits that he's not perfect. So let's just believe him. The guy is petty. The guy is just wrong. He is a bully. He's rude. He's mean. This is what he had to say about Matt Hancock. Well, what he says about Matt Hancock is right. I agree. But his dislike of Matt Hancock is very, very different to the way most of us, when we criticize the health secretary. This is just very, very personal and very bitter.
Matt Hancock, completely useless or what?
Well, I think it would be fair for me to say that I would buy Matt at my valuation and sell him at his and realise a healthy profit in the process.
Okay, John. So, the John Bercow show is not going to last that long. He's going to have his 15 minutes of fame, and he's going to go away and disappear, just like what we did with the title just now. We're not going to talk about John Bercow, just like how we stopped talking about Femi. I just said the word, but we're not going to talk about these guys. Don't give them attention, because that's all they want. Now, it's Monday. As I said, thanks again for all the support. A lot of you, I believe, because obviously you've had a lot of questions about the channel, the membership, and things like that. We've introduced the annual option as well, annual payment options, if you prefer that, because on a monthly basis, some people just prefer not to do monthly, just rather just pay like £30, just one off, and that's it. You could do that. You could just go on change membership plan. Go click on my account and then change membership options, something like that. You can actually see you could just pay like the £30 one-off payment and done. Rather than just like have the monthly payment. That's kind of a bit annoying, I know that. Also, in terms of the YouTube video player, this is actually going to help a lot of you guys. I know the majority are still using the original player, the second link that comes with the website itself. That's built in. But if you guys want to watch it on your smart TVs, and if you have had some issues with your tablets or devices with the other player, feel free to use the YouTube link. It's easier. It's a private YouTube link. It's not actually uploaded on YouTube publicly. Unfortunately, we can't do that anymore. So it's all thanks to you guys. Continue the support. I really appreciate this. And if you have any other friends or family members who would benefit from this show, then definitely recommend it to them. Also, in terms of the daily questions, it's Monday now, so feel free to, for the full members of the channel, go on the membership area, top of the page, and click on the link, and then you have the box where you could submit your daily questions. And tomorrow I will see all the questions, and I'll answer a few of them, and then we'll go on a regular basis. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.